This is The Perspective.
Joining us now is Mr. Bob Grant, who is our athletic director here on campus at Wright State. BG, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here.
All right. So what is something, we have a couple new sports here at Wright State. Really exciting. What is something that, or what do these new sports bring to your department and to the campus?
So we announced a couple weeks ago the addition of men's indoor and outdoor track. And what that'll do, Parker, really is enhance our track program. You know, we had men's cross country, and some of those student athletes were running unattached indoor and outdoor. And so it'll allow us to really build on that and build on a team, quite frankly, that's overachieved as much as any of our teams have overachieved. A team that really is built on Raider country recruiting, a very high achieving academic team. So I'm very excited to build on the success they've had on the women's side and on the cross country side. So that's exciting. And then women's bowling is really cool because, as you know, we've had a very successful men's and women's club bowling team here. And so to transition the women's program over to our shop with their head coach, Jeff, is super duper exciting. So I'm really excited to go to some bowling matches. So that'll be cool.
So you mentioned the new bowling coach, Jeff Fleck. We also have a new volleyball coach here on campus, and Travers Green. For that process, what's that process like for you when it comes to finding some new faces of these programs?
Great question. And it's funny, Parker, it used to bother me early in my career. I can remember vividly speaking publicly, and one of the first questions I'd always get is, how are you going to keep Brad Brownell? You know who Brad Brownell is, obviously the basketball coach we had here, who is now at Clemson. It always kind of bummed me out. I think, well, I don't want to lose Brad Brownell. And I really came to embrace the fact that, you know, we've become a place where coaches, oftentimes young coaches, come, and I think our culture is set up, and we see it in baseball and women's basketball and men's basketball, now in volleyball, where coaches can succeed here. And if they aspire to be at a higher level on a bigger stage with brighter lights and infinitely more money, we can provide that vehicle too. And so when an Allie Matters, who comes in here and does a miraculous job of taking a volleyball program that, quite frankly, was irrelevant in the Horizon League and turning them into a power in the Midwest, that's super gratifying for all of us and makes us really proud. And then the fact that Allie's able to springboard to a position that, you know, gains her a bigger stage and more money is really good, and she leaves the program in great shape. And so Travers Green is more attracted to a position like this. So I've come to really embrace this kind of change. Travers emerged after a month-long search that was headed up by Joylyn Brown in our office, and I'm really excited. I had lunch yesterday with a couple of our volleyball newcomers. They're super excited about Travers and his style. So, you know, we've got a saying, the standard is the standard, and we don't expect volleyball standards to lessen at all, just like we've, you know, had 4 different baseball coaches in the last 12 years. And, you know, same with women's basketball and so on and so on. So long-winded answer, not surprised that Allie moved on. She was so talented and so good and so, you know, highly sought after. But I think Travers will be terrific.
So what made you want to become an athletic director? Was it the love for sports? Was it the love for athletes, or a mixture of both?
We might turn this into a multi-day podcast. That's the long answer, but I'll give you the short answer.
100% okay.
Yeah. So my dream growing up was to work in Major League Baseball. I loved baseball growing up. Baseball was my thing. I was a hack high school athlete, not very good at all, no chance of playing beyond that. And I came to Wright State for an undergrad degree, thinking I would try to work in a Major League Baseball front office. And through a comedy of me trying to get on in Major League Baseball and build my resume in my undergrad, I got some advice from someone at the Major League level who said, listen, very hard to break into. If you love sports, go back to Wright State. They're a burgeoning young Division I program at this point. Volunteer in their athletic department. Make yourself known. Take any crap job they want you to do and do it for free. See how you like it and build those relationships. And Parker, I was naive enough back then to do just that, and I volunteered in athletics and sports information for a couple of years, doing all kinds of jobs no one wanted to do, from counting tickets to delivering pizzas to keeping stats to sweeping floors, and parlayed those connections into a job at Nutter Center, was being built, in charge of corporate sales. Did that for a couple of years in the building's infancy, and then my sort of newfound friends in athletics sought me out for a fundraising position 20-plus years ago, moved down then, and kind of my duties grew, and for better or for worse, now 14 years ago, they chose me as the AD. And so love what I do. I say all the time, Wright State's grown up around me while I've grown up around it. So, yeah, it's been a really nice ride.
So in your eyes, what's more fulfilling for you? You talked about the program successes across the board. You mentioned the volleyball team and their big change with Alley Matters. What's more fulfilling, to maintain solid programs, or is it more fulfilling to see one of those programs go from worst to first?
Yeah, wow, what a great question. I'm going to give you a weak answer and say they're both unbelievably fulfilling, because in my early career, I would have told you going from worst to first was the deal. But the older I get, sustaining that level of success, like our baseball team has done, for example, from Rob Cooper, really from Ron Nischwitz to Rob Cooper to Greg Lovelady to Jeff Mercer to Alex Sogard, that's almost more difficult to do than a bump up and win. To sustain that winning is probably more gratifying to me. And I'm a pretty poker-faced administrator. I don't get too high and low. You can't in this business, and I think that's suited us well. But I think the sustained success is what we're looking for. We'd like you to come in as a freshman and have multiple bites at an NCAA apple, not just a one and done kind of a thing, no matter what sport you play for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you have been very high on this mantra of PSA. And for people that don't know what PSA is, it's person, student, athlete, in that order. What has that meant to you over the course of your time as AD?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it sounds very simple and logical. But when I took over as the AD 14 years ago, I really was grappling for how I wanted to run the department. I felt very prepared. I'd had my depth and breadth of experience touch virtually every area of the athletic department, and I supervised some sports at that point. And really, the most gratifying thing that I did was spend time with those teams, whether it was my house for dinner or lunches or road trips or sitting around practices and watching and learning and talking to the student athletes. And they're the reason we're here. We're not making widgets. We're taking 225 18 to 22-year-olds, trying to make them better prepared for life. And so I thought back then and did some work with some folks in the area of a mission statement, or kind of a true north for us. And it was just as simple as, we're going to take care of our student athletes as people first, specifically in this order: students second, so the academic side of the house, and athletics is really a distant third. And when we first started talking about that 14 years ago, it didn't necessarily go over well in every corner of our department. You've got coaches saying, wait a minute, I want to win, and we're here for fill in the blank, whatever the sport is. And I insisted on, no, we're going to do it this way, and this is the way we're going to be judged and evaluated. And at least then I can lay my head in the pillow at night and feel like we're doing things the right way, the collegiate way, not the commercial way. Didn't want to sell ourselves out, and didn't really know, Parker, for sure if that would work. Honestly, I thought, if it doesn't work, I'll be fired, but I'll feel good about how we try to do things. And maybe even to my surprise, because I'd be lying if I didn't say some, quiet corner of my brain didn't think, will this really work? If this is really your mantra, if this is every one of your employees' elevator speech on how you want to do business, this is how you're going to recruit kids, will it work? And I think it has worked tremendously well. The last 5 years, I think, probably inarguably, and this is a testament to our student athletes and our coaches, have been the best in Wright State history. And that's despite tremendous financial woes and, a pandemic and all kinds of obstacles thrown against our student athletes. We've had our best 5-year run in men's basketball, in women's basketball, in golf, in volleyball, in baseball. That's not normal. And I really give credit to that mission, that culture of PSA. Getting harder, name, image, and likeness, no-sit transfer, the transfer portal. Again, the commercial model rears its ugly head in our business all the time. And so we sort of fight that. So there's a long-winded answer.
So you mentioned some of the coaches in your program. I've had Alley Matters on this show. I've had Brad Brownell on this show, and we've talked about Wright State at length. And one thing they keep going back to is how open and how willing everybody is to help. How important is it to you for your door to always be open and give support to all your programs?
Yeah, I think it's a key. I say this all the time, Parker, and in deference to Shay as well, I'm never the smartest guy in the room, this room included. But I think that I'm really good at creating emotional touch points and emotional investments in our people. And so I preach that all the time. Right? I'm not the budget guru that I probably should be. I'm not the academic or compliance guru I probably should be. But I think I can make connections and help people make connections. And so I just left a lunch over at McAllister's, one of our partners, with 12 of our men's soccer newcomers. And we sat and just talked about life and what they're doing. And I made sure if they wanted it, they all had my cell phone, and I reminded them my door is always open. Joyland's door is open. Jason, Chris, Sarah, Brandon, all open. We really, our staff works for two groups, our student athletes and our coaches. It's our job to support them. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, and I'm glad to hear our coaches like Allie and Brad sort of, parrot that, because it's very true. I really demand accessibility.
Yeah, and talking about your time as the athletic director here on campus, you mentioned some of the people on your staff, like Joylyn Brown, like Chris Bethel, Nick Phillips. How important are they to assist? And I know this is kind of a stupid question, but they have been helpful to us, and I can't imagine more so how they've helped you in your time.
Yeah, I heard the term as a young person that really a place is more about the people than the place. And I don't think I ever really knew what that meant or appreciated it or thought very deep about it. But our people, all the ones you named and many others, and those that have come before this group, we've had a lot of turnover. We've even got a coaching tree that I think I've shared with you of all of our coaches that have gone all over the country. But our people are what make us, Parker. They are.
Yeah.
I mean, it is sports information working quietly, the Nick Phillips, the Alex Underwoods of the world, that most people may not even know their names or what they look like, and they're tirelessly behind the scenes, just like the Colton Darties are, the Gary Dillaballs, the folks that you may not see them, out in front on things. They're as important to our operation as anybody.
So when talking about the basketball program, and it's obviously been a very successful program, both men's and women's, back-to-back Horizon League championships, one last year for the women, this year for the men. What does it mean to the Horizon League as a whole for programs like Wright State and the other Horizon League schools? What does it mean to the NCAA to have such good success as a league?
Yeah, I think this is what the league is about. We are, men's basketball is the engine that drives this league without football. It doesn't mean any other sports are less important. They're not. They're just as important. But financially, men's basketball really is the one AAA model. And so the Horizon League, at one point when Butler was in the league and going to the Final Four, probably when you were, in grade school,
yeah,
they had it rolling, and that means more credits as far as NCAA financial credits for the league. It means sort of more credibility for the league. It's just a better reputation for all those things. And I think, we've slipped in the last several years. And I take that very personally as the AD at Wright State. I want us to be really good at men's basketball in the Horizon League. I'd like to think, along with Northern Kentucky, we're one of the probably two bullies on the block in the league in men's basketball the last 5 years. And that's by design. We are trying to help lead the way and do good things in men's basketball, because it really is trickle-down economics from there. The more successful our men's basketball team is, that's more exposure, ultimately more dollars, more donors, more corporate partners for volleyball, for golf, for soccer, for women's basketball. And the whole league is really built that way, or should be built that way. So we've got a long ways to go as a league. I'm involved in all kinds of meetings trying to figure out how we can make men's basketball collectively in the Horizon League better. And it needs to be better. It needs to be better.
So you are a big part of every program on campus, or every athletic program we have at Wright State. Like you said, you mentioned men's basketball being one of the most financially prominent for the league as a whole. Scott Nagy has had tremendous success here at Wright State. To talk a little bit about what Scott Nagy brings to your athletic department and to the men's basketball program.
Yeah, he's an absolute dream for me as the athletic director. He is. I said this in a Tom Archdeacon article a month ago, and I stole the old Dennis Green quote of Scott Nagy is exactly who we thought he was, who I thought he was. Here was a man who was very high character, a coach who really toiled in anonymity at South Dakota State for 21 years on 21 one-year contracts, and did nothing but win and win the right way and bounce up with some regularity, make NCAA tournaments. And that was my hope when I hired him 6 years ago. And he's been everything I could have hoped he'd have been and more. And it's not just Scott. That staff has been phenomenal. That group of student athletes has been phenomenal. And when you have a revenue sport like a men's basketball or a football, I say this, and I don't mean to make light of it at all, but very few businesses reward bad behavior like ours does. And so many times surrounding a men's basketball program or a football program, you'll compromise your principles. You'll look the other way. You may have student athletes that you wouldn't normally have in a program that you're trying to sort of win at all costs. And that's not me, and that's not Scott. And so it's very important to me that we're aligned like that. And so he's been terrific. I say all the time, we've got the trifecta within the Horizon League, which maybe only a handful of ADs in America have, maybe only a few. And when I say that, I mean your revenue sport, in our case, men's basketball. I've got the trifecta of the best coach. Scott Nagy is the best coach in the Horizon League. The best fans. We lead the league in attendance every year. And the best facilities. The Setzer Pavilion, Mills Morgan Center, that basketball training facility is still as nice as a lot of majors have. And a phenomenal recruiting tool for us, not just from a student-athlete standpoint, from a coaching standpoint. Brad Brownell's not here without the pavilion. Scott Nagy's not here without the pavilion. Kerry Hoffman may not be here without the pavilion. It's a great selling point for us. So, to wrap up the Scott question, he's terrific. We're lucky to have him, and I'm very thankful.
So going back to surrounding or defining a place by its people and the people that are in it, and I saw your quote on talking about Chris Collins and what he's been able to bring to Wright State basketball as a whole. And we talked a lot about Wright State basketball when I had Chris on this show a month or so ago. And I've gotten to know him, and you obviously have as well. Chris is just the utmost of guys, and incredibly talented when it comes to sports broadcasting. And just talk a little bit about what him and Coach Brown bring to coverage of your program.
Yeah, I mean, Chris specifically, who I've now known for 20 plus years, which is scary. I mean, first he's a tremendous gentleman and a very nice, kind-hearted soul. No ego at all whatsoever. And he's really, really, really good at what he does. I mean, He's really good. And I don't want people to ever take that for granted. I think Raider fans, and I'm thinking of you and Shay right now in particular, don't know any different. Don't really know any different, right? There's plenty of different around. And you probably do know, we'll never ever name names. We'll turn on ESPN Plus broadcast, and you'll get the feed from, other teams' broadcasters. And it just reinforces my thought that with Chris combined with Jim, we really have, and I don't mean this in a hyperbolic way at all, we have the Marty and Joe of announcers. I mean, they're just so good together. I was preparing a presentation the other day, and I dropped into the presentation the audio portion of Chris and Jim calling the championship game against Northern Kentucky, the last, whatever it is. And you guys have heard this minute of action. And the emotion, the genuine, raw care and love they both have for this program cannot be faked. And to hear them, go from, hey, we're winning. Oh, no. No, I can't do it justice. You guys have heard the clip so many times. To then we win it, and they're both literally, like all of us, are in tears. It gives me chills to listen to that to this day. So, we are, again, back to the people part of the question, Chris and Jim, just two more of a group of quiet, awesome people that are part of our organization that, make things so much better for us and so much easier for us.
Yeah, going back to Coach Brown, a guy who has literally been here since the beginning as part of a Wright State coach in the division when they were in Division II, won a national championship in 82, 83, and getting to know him. And, I mean, you've talked to him many times, I'm sure, just an incredibly smart coach. And I think that's what makes him so good on the broadcast is that coaching has never really left him.
Yeah, he's so good in the broadcast, and he loves Wright State so much, and I love how that comes through. I mean, again, it's he's the Joe Nuxall to Chris's Marty, and it just kind of plays that way. This means that we're both probably older than I want us to be, but I joked the other day, the NCAA sending us to San Diego was not certainly ideal for anybody involved. When you pack your bags and you go to the first four at UD Arena, and you're not sure which team is going to get on the plane, go to San Diego, us or Bryant, really hard to plan for a lot of people to be there. And it's, 3 time zones away, and you're playing 36 hours later. And so what that means ultimately is, and I joke with Jim Brown about this, is, we've been to the NCAA in Indianapolis when I was a young punk in the athletic department, then obviously Pittsburgh, then Dallas, now San Diego. I think 2 human beings on the planet have been to all 4. me and Jim Brown.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So, no, Jim's depth and breadth of knowledge and care for this university and athletics specifically is unmatched.
You talked about the fans, and especially we were both there at UD Arena for the first 4 game. What did that crowd mean to your program and to the team to be as loud and as supportive as they were during that first 4 game?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. But I must say that right up until tip-off, I think I said at that game with Julie Rowe-Lash, the commissioner of the Horizon League, and I think we knew there was going to be a huge crowd. There always is the first 4. I'd like to think we bumped that crowd up even a little bit more, which I think we did. But I remember leaning over to Julie, and she said, Bob, what a phenomenal crowd. Will they pull for you guys? And I said, I honestly don't know. Will they be more ambivalent? Because certainly 2/3 of that arena, I'm guessing, had never seen us play before. And so didn't really realize during introductions, I thought, wow, it kind of feels like they're going to pull for us. And if they do, it'd probably be the largest partisan Wright State crowd in history. I mean, just think about it. It's 13,000.
Yeah.
And, by the first media timeout, it was very obvious they were in our corner, which we were all extremely thankful for. And, then when the Let's Go Raiders kind of reverberates throughout that arena, that was a really cool moment.
So last question for you, BG. Again, appreciate your time today. It has become universally known among the athletes on campus. We've picked up on it here at our station. It's the chocolate milk that is the awards for doing something good here in the Wright State Athletic Department. How did the chocolate milk come to be for Bob Grant?
And the chocolate milk's taken a little bit of a hit through COVID. I would not lie, with supply chain issues, things like that. There was a particular brand of chocolate milk that I discovered about a decade ago, and I'm not a chocolate milk lover, that I thought was terrific. And through some effort, not a ton of effort, we were able to get that brand of chocolate milk delivered to us. And so I started just randomly, spontaneously delivering chocolate milk after games or after practices, and it caught on. And Parker, that was just another one in a long line of silly things we try to do to get an emotional touch point with our student athletes.
Yeah.
Whether that's come back and sign the wall outside my office that you've seen when you graduate, whether it's dinners at my house or sophomore lunches or senior ice creams or all kinds of silly things we do, the nonsense we do on Twitter that gets people involved. Chocolate milk was just one of those silly things that I guess it really isn't silly, because those are some of the most important things we do when we get to spend time with our student athletes and they know that we genuinely are there and visible. And, it's the old thing of, a lot of things are just about showing up. And so our staff needs to show up and be available and be visible. And that's just a way to do that. Yeah, a little silly, but it's pretty good chocolate milk, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, well, I think that is something that makes Wright State unique when it comes to the recruiting aspect. Is the little it comes back to the little cliched phrase, it's the little things.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think little things like that certainly help when it comes to it's showing that athletes and staff members are just not, they're just not athletes and staff members to you. They're family. That's exactly right. That's what comes to forefront for me. So BG, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
No, pleasure. Anything I can do, always. And you two have been terrific, honestly. Terrific advocates for us and supporters, and very fair with us, and I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the help that you and your department's given to us. The opportunity for us to call a women's basketball game on ESPN Plus and
super cool.
Do baseball over the last weekend with them. So yeah, we can't be more appreciative of how much help you've given us.
Well, thank you, Parker. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.